Okay, we are live on YouTube. I'm recording on this computer as well. So, welcome to the third session of the Vedic chants with Technology Interludes for ages 8 and up. So, in the previous classes, we covered the Prakriti and its evolution, and we started with the introductory sloka, the Shanti mantra. Oh, I should have started the video. Okay. The Shanti mantra, and then we covered its meaning. And then we started with the first sloka. So, anyone wants to recite the sloka?
Yeah.
Sahasra Sirsa Purusha Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat Sabhumim Visvato Vrutva Atyatishtattasangulam. So we covered its meaning, and on to the next slide, next sloka today. So this is the second sloka in the Purusha Suktam.
How many slokas are there chapters like in the Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, they are called Anuvakas.
60?
No, Purusha Suktam is small. We'll see. So I think we covered it in the very first class, right? So this is actually the 90th Suktam of the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda. So it contains 16 mantras, so just 16 slokas. In your language, it's slokas. So just 16 mantras. And sometimes it is repeated, a few mantras are repeated with additional 6 mantras. So today's mantra would be the second mantra in the Purusha Suktam, and it goes like this. If you know, then you can recite with me. Otherwise, say it in your mind. Purusha-e vedagum sarvam yadbhutam yaccha bhavyam utamrutattvaseshanah yadanne natirohati. In English, Purusha-e vedagum sarvam yadbhutam yaccha bhavyam utamrutattvaseshanah yadanne natirohati. So what does it mean? Purusha. Purusha means?
The best or the ultimate.
Purusha means man, actually. It's man.
Parama Purusha.
Yeah, Parama Purusha. Yeah, you are right.
Okay,
in this context, in this context, Parama, Purusha, Parama is not given explicitly, but we have to understand that this sloka is referring to the Parama Purusha, the ultimate man, who is the God. Eva. Eva means we came across this word. Eva. Eva plus Udagam. Idam actually, but the G's sometimes get added in the Vedas for the pronunciation's sake. I'm not too keen on pronunciation at this point because we want to analyze Vedas. We are more focused on the meaning of the Vedas more than the Vedas have different aspects. But for our session, we are focused more on the meaning. So that's why I'm not too keen on the pronunciation. But yeah, this idam in the Veda becomes idagam. So eva plus idam is evadagam. Purusha-e vedagam, like that. So it's not Veda, it is Eva and idam. So what is Eva? Or Eva, sorry.
Like.
What?
And like.
No, Eva means only or alone. Purusha-e means only Purusha. Idam or idam. Idam sarvam. Idam means this or is. Sarvam means all. So God alone is everything, right? Purusha-e vedagam sarvam.
Why do we need the alone? Can't we say God is everything? Because God is everything.
God alone. We want to stress the fact that God alone is everything.
Okay.
Yad means
This.
that or which. Yad bhutam.
Bhutam is earth.
No, bhutam means in Indian languages there are three tenses, right? Like in English there is past tense,
right.
present tense, and future tense. So in Indian languages and of course in Sanskrit, the past tense is bhutam, bhutakalam. So bhutam means past. Bhavyam, yad bhutam means that which was. Yadcha bhavyam, yad. Yadcha means yad plus cha.
So
Yad means
which and.
Yeah, and cha means and.
If
And
bhutam,
which is bhavyam.
If bhutam is past, then is bhavyam future or present?
Future. You can think of it as future. Yad bhutam yadcha bhavyam utamurta. Uta means it's a preposition kind of thing. It could mean moreover. Utamrutatvasyesanaha amrutavasya amrutat means what?
Well, amrut means
Utamrutatvasyesanah. Uta amrutatva esanah. So uta is like a preposition. Amruta means what is mruta?
Well, isn't amruta like nectar? That
Yeah,
makes you
amruta
immortal?
exactly. Mruta means death. Amruta means
Not
death,
death.
not death. That means immortal. So it is the drink is called amruta because it gives immortality. So amruta means immortality. Etanaha utamrutatva seshanaha. Oh, we forgot seshanaha. What is ishanaha actually? Ishanaha means Isha means
Isha means like God, like Ishvara.
yes. Isvara. Ishana means he alone is a god or something like that. Yad again, now yad again comes here. Which or that. Annena, yadannena means again which. That which tirohati, atirohati.
So
oh, one second. Yadan yat annena. Yat means that. Annena means food. Sorry, I was trying to split that word. Annena means food. Anna is annam. Food.
Oh, like Annapurneshwari.
Yeah.
The goddess of food.
That's right. So yadannena means that which becomes food. Atirohati means which shows itself. So what this means is that food with that which is food also shows up as purusha.
Like God?
Yeah. So that's the meaning of each word. So the key words are idam sarvam, right? Purusha, of course, is key. Then idam sarvam means
He is everything.
yes. Yat bhutam bhavyam, yacha bhavyam.
In the past and in the future.
He is the past and he is the future. Or you can think of it as he is in the past and he is in the future also.
Immortality.
Yeah, amrutatvasya means immortality. The immortality is he is immortal, and then next yad annena tirohati atirohati. So annena means food. He acts like the food.
Why do we single out food? I mean, if God is everything, including everything that surrounds us, why do we single out food and not fire or one of the Panchbhutas?
Yeah, good question. That will come when we talk about the interpretation. That is the reason why just the meaning of the words is not going to help. You have to interpret the words as well. So that's what we are going to do now.
Is it because food supplies life and
Exactly.
God
That's
supplies
right.
life?
That's right. You're on the right track. So the meaning is the Purusha is indeed all this creation in essence. Idam sarvam. He is everything. That which existed in the past and that which will exist in the future. So bhutam bhavyam. Then everything, the whole creation is woven by the immortal essence of the great Lord, Purusha. By becoming food of the creation, by getting consumed in whose immortal essence to surrender, he transcends the gross world and becomes immortal. So this is a really holy verse, right? So that is the reason why the meaning is not that simple. It is expressed in slightly complicated words, but the surface meaning of the mantra is quite clear, right? The God is everything, right? And he existed in the past and he will continue to exist in the future also. And this entire creation is inside the immortal self of the God, right? God is immortal, and this entire creation, whatever you can think of, it is all inside the God, right? And by becoming food, so God himself is food. By becoming food, the God sustains his creation. So he's playing a role to sustain the creation. He did not just create the world and then stop there. He makes sure that the world is sustained, it continues.
So isn't this the role of Lord
Brahma,
Vishnu?
Vishnu, Shiva, right? So yeah. So we are referring to one God, that is a Purusha.
So all of them.
Yeah. Who has all these characteristics? So, okay, let us interpret these words now. First is the Purusha is a God, of course, and he is in the past, in the present, and the future. So that means God transcends time, space, and even mortality. Can you imagine something like that? Any concept like that? The concept that always exists?
Sanatana Dharma.
Yeah, Sanatana Dharma is something
It
like that.
means it withstands time, space, and mortality.
Yes. So Sanatana Dharma itself is God in one sense, right? So the other thing is you're really blessed. You're able to imagine all this very easily, right? But there are many people in this world who are not able to imagine this. Okay, just quickly look at, if there's anyone here. Okay, there's nothing. Okay. So it is not easy to imagine all these concepts. The concept that transcends time, that transcends space, right? In essence, because remember, we said that the whole creation is surrounded by the God. That means the God, everything is inside the God, right? So that means the God pervades, transcends even space. And he's immortal. So he's going to continue forever and ever and ever, right? So the perception of God is nothing like the perception of any other object in this universe. To think of any other object, is there any other object in this creation which has these characteristics, transcending time, space, and mortality?
Well, life does. We've had plants, and well, I mean, of course, not the same plant, but its offspring and animals and people as well.
Yeah, so that again is God. So that is a form of God. Life is basically a form of God, right? So, but any material thing, can you think of any material thing that can that holds these characteristics?
That stays forever.
Yeah, that stays forever, and that transcends space. That means it is all pervading.
The sky. Air.
The sky is not on the earth.
Right? Air can't be born or killed.
Air is only 10 kilometers, right? The atmosphere exists only for 10 kilometers above the earth
space,
or something. Then. Space is not an earth. So it is. There's nothing that matches this abstract concept. This abstract concept is nothing like what we perceive. So it is beyond our perception. To be frank, to be clear, God is beyond our perception. That is the interpretation of this mantra. We need special skills to even think about God. So, for instance, can you perceive soul?
Like, can we?
Yeah, can you feel the soul?
No,
can you think of the soul in concrete terms?
No, it's an abstract now.
It is very abstract, right? So that is the reason why a lot of people question the existence of soul, question the existence of God, because they're all very abstract, and abstract concepts are very difficult for people to comprehend. It really requires special skills and some special faculties, special abilities to think about God, even think about God.
Because people don't believe things until they see them?
Yeah. The same with science, right? A lot of students, quite a few of the students are not very good in the STEM functions, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. They're not good in them. Why? Because a lot of concepts in STEM are abstract.
You have to create it.
Yeah, we have to visualize it. So I really got an experience of this when during my first or second semesters in PhD, we were taught a course in math. It was kind of prerequisite. We had to pass that course. So there was a student, there were a few students who had difficulty with the subject, but there was a student to whom it was very difficult to comprehend all those abstract concepts. The math
Math?
concepts, yeah.
College math? No.
Yeah, it's slightly advanced math. But the professor explained the concepts. There was no textbook, there's no syllabus, there are no slides, just blackboard, chalk piece, and the professor. He explained a few concepts and things like that. So it was very hard. Whereas we all could, some of us could do it, some of us could not do it. But one student, he just could not comprehend much. He got good grades so far. That is the reason why he was accepted into the PhD program. But it was so abstract. So that's what made me understand that to some people it is just very difficult to comprehend. So that was confirmation. But I had that hunch even when I was younger. So like when I was in undergrad, when I was an undergrad student, I used to teach neighbors and things like that, relatives, neighbors. So there was one boy who wouldn't understand math concepts. So I would explain him. So in India, in Indian textbooks, there are like a bunch of problems based on a similar technique. So you have to do them repetitively so that you master that skill. They're all similar. So I solved one problem, asked him to solve second problem, he could not. Again, I solved him. Third, fourth, fifth, all five problems are similar. Sixth problem, still he could not understand. So that also made me realize that not all people can comprehend these abstract concepts. Same thing with the concept of God.
Then how do we learn to comprehend?
Exactly. How do you learn to comprehend science, math, engineering, technology?
I don't know. One day it just you look at it in a different way, and
Ye-
then it just
yes.
starts to make sense.
Exactly. So you have to spend a lot of time with it. And one day suddenly it will start to make sense to you. Same thing with the concept of God. So you have to spend a lot of time. You have to analyze it in many, many ways. That is the purpose of Vedas. So, for instance, in machine learning, we talked about the features, right? So each feature is in the space, each feature is
a dot?
Is a dimension. All right.
So right. And then each point is a dot.
Yeah, like for men and women, if you remember that men and women classification, the height and weight was the height was a feature, weight was a feature, and each was a dimension, x-axis and y-axis.
Since there are only two features, it was two dimensions.
Two dimensions. But if the data has 10,000 features,
10,000 dimensions.
10,000 dimensions.
Is there such thing?
See, it is hard to comprehend those kind of concepts, right?
Because the space with 3D.
Yeah, our mind can only easily understand 3D because we are living in 3 dimensions. But 10,000 dimensions, 100,000 dimensions, 480,000 dimensions.
I can't even imagine 4 dimensions.
Yeah, even 4 dimensions is difficult to imagine. And in machine learning, there are hundreds of thousands. Can you give an example of data which has hundreds of thousands of dimensions?
Well, grades might have, and when you're calculating somebody's grades, or like what they're good at, there are millions and millions of factors to take care of. How well they can add, how well they can subtract, how well they can multiply, divide, and how well they did on this paper, and how well they did on that paper.
Yeah, so yeah, that is a good, that is a reasonable example. But a simple example is the image, right? Image is made up of hundreds of thousands of features. What are the features?
Pixels?
Pixels, right. Each of the pixel is a feature. So hundreds of thousands of dimensions. So a lot of students, a lot of people have difficulty in comprehending that kind of a concept. Hundreds of thousands of dimensions. Right? But it is still nothing compared to the perception of God. Right? God is even beyond that. If comprehending space in thousands of dimensions is difficult, comprehending means understanding or imagining or realizing. If that itself is difficult, the perception of God is even more difficult because He pervades everywhere, everything. Any thinkable concept is within God. Nothing goes beyond God. So perceiving God, imagine, it is so difficult, right? So that is the reason why most of the concepts in advanced learning, like in science, technology, engineering, and math, are similar to learning about God. So that is the reason why people whose ancestors were engaged in devotional activities, in knowing about the Vedas and reciting the Vedas, understanding the Vedas. So the progeny of those people are today also they are good in engineering and STEM in general, science, technology, engineering, and math. So if the ancestors were analyzing the Vedas and trying to understand the God, they developed those skills, and those skills got coded in the genes, and those genes got transmitted from one generation to the other. And today, you notice that a lot of people who are doing well in science, technology, engineering, and math, their ancestors were doing similar things but about God, right? So, so learning about God and learning about science, technology, engineering, or math, they are quite related. So the other way is also true. So we see that um, some researchers who are not even born in the Sanatana Dharma, they did not even know about Sanatana Dharma when they were young. So they are born in a different faith, and their faith prohibits trying to understand other faiths, right? But still, there are some scholars, some researchers who have turned their attention to Sanatana Dharma. If you see the commentaries written on Vedas, some of the very important commentaries, they're written by scholars who practice the different faith. And in every time we begin a chapter in Bhagavad Gita, we have been talking about quotation.
Like Henry
Yeah,
David
theory. Yeah. So every chapter, when we start, we are talking about a quotation by a famous personality,
like Albert Einstein.
like Albert Einstein. So these famous celebrities, they were not born in Sanatana Dharma, but still they studied the Bhagavad Gita. What does that tell you? Because the study of Bhagavad Gita is very similar to the study of science, engineering, technology, and math.
Which is the fundamentals.
Yeah. So if you like one kind of food, you're more likely to like similar kind of food, right? Same thing with people, right? You like one kind of a person, you are more likely to like similar kind of people, right? So same thing is happening here. The scholars who got interested into science, who were drawn into science, engineering, technology, and math, they're also drawn towards the Sanatana Dharma because the concepts, the reasoning, the methods are very similar. They're very abstract. So if you do well in one, you are more likely to do well in the other also. Right? So
like nearest neighbors almost.
Yeah, analogy, nearest neighbors. Right? Birds of the same feather flock together. Right? So science and Sanatana Dharma are very similar. So they are like nearest neighbors. So people pursue both. In fact, there are different ways of learning in this world, right? And one way is, like you said, K and M, K nearest neighbors. You learn by analogies, right?
Is that one way for people who can't believe or learn about God who can't imagine it? Is that one way to teach them how to imagine by analogies?
Yes. So when you study a lot of science and engineering and technology, you're likely to develop that kind of skill to understand God in the true form. So, okay, now to the second part of the mantra, right? So the second part of the mantra says that God sustains life in the form of food. Life needs life to survive, right? There is no life in this creation which can survive by eating non-living objects like mud and.
Well, what about plants?
Yeah, plants. Plants are, and there are some carnivorous plants also, but.
Well, I mean, they also can eat life as well, like compost. That's all like fruit peels and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the nutrients, they still need some living nutrients. So life needs life to sustain. So particularly the higher forms of life like human beings and others, they cannot survive on stones and mud. So by feeding life in the form of food, which is also life, and food is life, right? Annam parabrahma swarupam.
And I mean, plants and animals, that's what we eat. They are life.
Yeah, they are life, basically. You cannot eat plants and other stuff when they die, right? After they are dead. Mm-hmm. Can you eat a plant which is dead completely?
No, we need plants that are still ripe and
exactly.
We have the nutrients that are alive.
Yes. The life should still exist in the plants and the leaves and whatever we eat.
That's why we don't eat rotten food.
Yes.
Because it's dead.
Yes, that is the reason why we don't eat rotten food, because it is dead. It smells, rotten food smells, right? So when somebody is dead or something is dead, it smells. So, life, at least the higher forms of life sustain by consuming life, which is basically food, and God is food. So God, in the form of food, is demonstrating to us how to surrender. What is happening to the food? It is being subsumed. It is being eaten up by a person, right? So that means the food is completely surrendering to that person. So God is surrendering to that person. So God is surrendering to that person. So in the form of food, and who is a person? God himself, right? So God in the form of person is consuming the God in the form of food, right? So God in the form of food is demonstrating how to completely surrender to God. And God in the form of person is demonstrating how to survive. Two important skills, survival and surrender. Right? Mm-hmm. So that is the mantra of sustenance. So the mantra of sustenance is surrendering at some times and surviving at other times. So by this recursive cycle, in this idea is very similar to an idea in software called recursion. Recursion means something expressed in terms of itself. That is called recursion. I'll give you an example.
Like how a digit can be represented by smaller digits, but still digits.
Yeah, that is an example. A digit, a number can be represented as a product of two numbers or as a sum of two numbers. So a number expressed in form of numbers is recursive definition, right? So here this is somewhat recursive. So God consumes God to sustain God, right? God in the form of life consumes God in the form of food to sustain life in God in the form of life. So it's a recursive concept. See how close the concepts of God and the concepts of software are.
So does that mean software also could be eternal?
Yeah, software has some of these ingredients, right? That is why it is so powerful. That is the reason why more and more students, more and more people are drawn towards software. So life sustains. There is no death to life. God, the forms change, right? I mean, you yourself and I myself have changed forms. When we were born, we were looking totally different. You look at your picture when you were a day old.
You'd hardly tell.
You're what?
You'd hardly tell it's you.
Yeah, you can hardly tell it's you, right? We have changed form. The life changes form, but life, there's no death to life. That is a concept of soul, right? See, this simple mantra with these simple meanings has this much interpretation. It is so deep. That is the power of Vedas. Outwardly, they look very simple, but they carry a very deep meaning. So that is a concept of soul. Soul is also God. So there's no death to life or God. So in that sense, God in the form of soul or life is immortal, right? God may be taking different forms from time to time, just like we change forms from time to time, even in our mortal selves, right? But there's no death. So that is why God is immortal. So let us look at, so that is the concept of God in the Vedas, right? That's the recursive concept of God in the Vedas. Now let us look at how the recursive concept is applied in software. So like you said, numbers being expressed as numbers, right? So for instance, take the problem of coming up with the sum of n natural numbers, the first n natural numbers. You all know what natural numbers are, right?
Whole numbers, right?
0 to, yeah, whole numbers. Actually, when I was
Integers?
in elementary school, whole numbers meant different from natural numbers. Natural numbers would start from 1 and whole numbers would start from 0. I don't know if that is still true, but I think
including one or not including one?
0, 1, 2, 3 is whole numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4 is natural numbers. So natural numbers plus 0 is equal to whole numbers, the set of whole numbers. But anyway, that doesn't matter. So first in natural numbers, for our discussion, let us say that the natural numbers start with the value 1. So how do you define the sum of the first n natural numbers? Sum n is equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus so on till n. First n, only till n. So sum of 5 is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. right? So that is a non-recursive way. This is what you know. This is less abstract, right? But the more abstract way of looking at it is the recursive way. So in recursion, instead of just one equation like this, there are two equations. First is for the value n equal to 1. If n is equal to 1, sum of n is equal to 1 as well. So that is it is also called the terminating condition. The recursion stops here. So this is the first equation. Sum of n is equal to 1 if n is equal to 1. Now the second equation is sum of n is equal to n plus sum of n minus 1 for all values greater than 1. Right? So take for instance sum of 5 is equal to 5 plus sum of 4. And sum of 4 can be expressed as 5 plus 4 plus sum of 3. Then sum of 3 can be expressed as 3 plus sum of 2. Sum of 2 can be expressed as 2 plus sum of 1. And sum of 1 from this terminating condition is 1. You have a question?
Isn't it basically the same thing? No, whichever way you do it.
It is the same thing.
Because either way you
The
do
result,
it is.
the result is the same, but this is a much, much more powerful way of solving problems. For computing the sum, this is a simple thing, right?
Yeah. Something you learn
The,
very quickly.
this is a simple thing. So there's not much of a gain here by using recursion. We can as well solve this problem like this, right? So but this is just to demonstrate the concept of recursion. So you can express the sum of n numbers as a sum of other numbers. So this is a recursive way. Just like God consumes God to sustain God, right? Just like that, sum is expressed as a sum of something else. But there has to be a terminating condition. God is abstract, right? Remember, there's no concept in the world which is more difficult, more strenuous, or more involved than the concept of God. So in the concept of God, there is no terminating condition. But in software, there should be a terminating condition. Otherwise, the program will crash, your computer will crash. So that is the reason why there's a terminating condition. So you're right. This whole thing looks much more complicated than this simple thing for a sum. But there are some really very difficult problems.
So is this basically like just making a factor tree?
What is it?
Like when we learn how about prime factorization and everything, and what are the prime factors of a number, we make a factor tree where we, like, for example,
Yes,
12.
That's
We
right.
start with 12, then make 3 and 4.
Right,
and
exactly.
3 is a prime number. 4
That is a
can turn into
recursive.
2 and 2.
Yes.
And then we find out that 12 equals 3 times 2 times 2.
Yes.
Or 3 times 2 squared.
So there's a problem called towers of Hanoi.
Is it like an infinity tower?
So what is this? Is not working or what?
It's still loading.
Where does it say?
Because there's an X right next to the go back page.
Oh yeah. So it is very slow then.
Wait,
Okay,
what is
no, no.
towers of Hanoi?
Okay, I'll show you. It is better to explain that. Oh man, it's not. Okay, see, this is the Tower of Hanoi. So there are 3 discs. Start. You have to transfer the 3 disks to this using this middle one. That is the problem of towers of Hanoi. So can you write code for that?
Wait, to transfer those 3 disks to where?
So from here to this.
Sure, just put each. Sure, and then put that on the tower, right? And
In the same order though. So the largest should be at the bottom, the medium one should be.
Can't we just put from tower A?
So okay, let us do it again. Start. So you got it in 7 steps, right? Reset. Okay, there's a reset. So the idea is to transfer these disks from tower A to tower B in the same order, right?
Just put all of them onto tower C.
No, you can. No, only one at a time. You have to move the disks only one at a time.
Only one can be on a single.
Could you put that one, the first one
Wait,
that you?
So only one disk can be on.
Oh, the other condition is that. Yeah, good point. The other condition is that the disks must always be in the same order. So you cannot put a smaller disk below a bigger disk. So that is a condition. So it takes 7 steps. What if there are 9?
You have to reset it.
Oh, you had a reason, right? So let us say 9. Oh man, okay, 9. And then let us start.
511.
Yeah, if there are 9 disks like this, there will be 511 steps.
How much would there be if there's 511 disks?
Okay, 511 disks.
Yeah, is there like a formula for finding it? Like times 2 or something?
511 disks. Oh, it takes forever. It probably runs into several thousands of steps. Okay, let us not go. But you understood, right?
Yeah.
This is a program of towers of Hanoi. You have to transfer these disks.
Probably the.
See, it is unresponsive. It is crashing. So it is not taking that much load. Right? So let us look at the code.
Wait, disks means like how many little layer things there are.
Yeah.
And not how many towers.
Like a number of lines of code. Okay, this is a program for towers of Hanoi. So this is the recursive program, right? So just 2 lines, 3 lines. This is the program for recursive. See, this is a function called towers of Hanoi. Are you able to see? So towers of Hanoi is a function. It takes the number of disks and from rod, to rod, and the temporary rod, right? And then if n is equal to 1, then move disk from rod to rod. If there's only one disk in the from rod, that's the last disk remaining, just put it on the top. So that is the last step. And the function for n is, it calls the function for n minus 1. from rod, auxiliary rod, to rod, and another call, because remember you need to move in between. You need to move the discs from one to another and things like that. So you need to do it twice. So that's it. This is the code for towers of an eye in recursion. If you use recursion, then that's it. 1, 2, 3. This cout means print statements. In C++, cout means print statements. You can ignore those. But basically 1, 2, and 3, that's it. 3 lines. Such a difficult program, you can solve in 3 lines using recursion. Now let us look at non-recursive way of doing it.
Oh, then you have to count until that number, which will be several.
Okay, here's an example of non-recursive code. There are different ways to do it, but this is a recursive way. This is a recursive way. No, this is not what we want. The non-recursive way. I think we got the wrong link. But the non-recursive way, this is a site in India, so it will take some time. It's a non-recursive way. The total number of moves required to solve the puzzle will be 2 power n minus 1. So you have to repeat these steps until 2 power n minus 1. So make, move, and all that stuff. Okay, this is still simple, but which one is difficult? Understanding this is difficult or understanding the recursive problem?
The recursive one.
Yeah. Because you're expressing n disks in terms of n minus 1 disks, right? So that is the power of recursion. So in this slide, it was not clear. The power of recursion wasn't very clear. But when you talk of another problem, 8 queens problem. So
Chessboard.
yeah, 8 queens problem, animation.
Oh,
Is that how we solve chess or something?
8 queens means that they can't be in the same row, line, or diagonal.
Is that something?
Yeah, you just see it for yourself. A queen is placed in row 1,
Which queen?
probably here. The queen is placed in row 2.
Okay, easy.
So it's going back and forth. It's not very good animation. Yeah, let us look at a video.
Well, that would be difficult because you can't have any.
This is a video on how to solve the 8 queens puzzle. We'll be using researching to solve it. To understand, you should know about researching first. If you don't, you should have a look at this video on researching. This is a problem often given in computers.
Put 8 queens on a chessboard in such a way that they cannot capture each other.
They
So that is the
capture
problem.
each other either by row, by line, or
Yes,
by
diagonal. So you should make sure that none of them can capture each other. So that is the
That
problem.
means none of them should be on the diagonal.
Yeah.
Each there should only be one per row and per
Yeah.
line.
So let us look the code for it means
You can just try a bunch of different things.
6 lines. See Python, 6 lines in recursive. Let us look at non-recursive. Non-recursive 8 queens. This many lines. Oh, it is still going on. So this is the main. So 65 lines. And these are all the functions that need to be called. So hundreds of lines, 8 queens problem, if it is non-recursive. But if it is recursive, 6 lines, just 6 lines. So what you do is,
Can't you just test every possible way and see if it works?
yeah, that is brute force approach. Brute force approaches are not really good.
It would take a long time.
Yeah. In 6 lines. So this is also not a very good example, but yeah, recursive. So n queens puzzle, 8 queens puzzle. So when you program it in recursion, it is much more simpler and easier.
It's like a formula.
Yeah, it's almost like a formula as if you are defining it. So that is the power of recursion. And as you can see, recursion is not too different from our concepts of God, the abstract concept of God. So that is the reason why a lot of STEM concepts are very similar to the Sanatana Dharma concepts. They're abstract and the methods are similar. Okay, so we don't have time for artificial intelligence today or machine learning. But the message is that we understood the concept of God in a very abstract way. One way of understanding God is what we saw today, and a very simpler concept in software called recursion. Any questions?
No.
Okay, then let us end the class with our prayer. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu.